So we've got Zev back here with us again, and this time around we're going to talk about a really, really important topic or issue at the moment, which is top priority, the voice. Okay, what is it? What should we do? Can you explain to us what's happening and what the agenda is behind the voice, Zev?
Well, this is one of the more sinister things we've seen from our government in quite some time. And pretty much everything we're told that this voice thing is about is the opposite. It's not here to help anyone, especially our Indigenous. It is going to rot them even further. It's going to create a massive amount of division, which the idea of voting for this is already creating a massive amount of division in this country. And then they want to try and ram this through. What a lot of people haven't looked at or realised is how this came about and who's actually behind it. And there are some very obvious questions that if anyone poked around in any of this would be asking the same questions many people like myself have been asking. One, why do we need it? Well, I've been, since this came up, saying this is not a matter of voting yes or no in the referendum. This is a matter of voting no for the referendum even going ahead. This needs to be cut off at the knees, so to speak, and prevented from even occurring. This has been done by our Australian Electoral Commission, the Australian Government, and the Parliament of Australia, or the Australian Parliament. So where did our Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia go? Where did our Government of the Commonwealth of Australia go, or the Commonwealth of Australia Electoral Commission? We've got these fake corporate entities, and which constitution are they planning on amending is another great question. The Commonwealth one or the bullshit Australian one, the corporate one? So we only have one real constitution. That's the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia, 1900-1901, as proclaimed and gazetted back then. And this new bullshit corporate one they're doing for the Commonwealth that's in liquidation and receivership. And guys, look that up on ASIC as well, as to what's going on here. We've got these corporate mobs and governments, corporations posing as government, coming in telling us we all have to vote to give the Indigenous a voice. And you're racist if you don't vote yes for this. Well, hang on. First of all, this is not about race or anything along those lines. This is about a massive land grab. It's about absolutely shafting our Indigenous and being able to try and veto their rights as the original sovereigns of this land, to steal that out from under them so that they can't claim sovereignty. It's a land grab for the WEF, nothing more. And this was set in play 30 odd years ago in the 90s. So that's a quick little intro on it. Now, what does the voice do? Well, it does nothing that we're told it's going to do. It's the opposite. Now, we already have, which I'll bring up on the screen and show everyone in a sec. We've already got, and just let me find it here. Here it is, the National Indigenous Australians Agency. This mob is to give a voice and representations to Parliament on behalf of Torres Strait and Indigenous people in this land. This has 1,300 staff and a $130-odd million budget per year that's already been set up and established, supposedly to do the exact same thing that the voice is going to do. But we already have it. So what's really going on? What is this really about? You must be getting some pearler questions about all this, do you? And can anyone find out, what does the voice actually entail? Nobody knows. Even Elbow doesn't know what it bloody entails because you can't tell anyone. And we're being asked to vote on something that no one has a bloody clue what it's going to do. So hopefully between us, Dee, we can enlighten a few people as to what's involved with this. What are they really up to? Look at the people behind it. Why is it all the people that were pushing the jabs and promoting the jabs, we had so-called celebrities and well-known people who are promoting the jabs, are the same people promoting a yes vote for the voice? Now, if that doesn't set off warning bells and alarm bells for everybody, I'm not sure what will. Pfizer are promoting the voice as a good thing. What the fuck does Pfizer have to do with our Indigenous rights here in this country? Where do they get off promoting a yes vote? They've just poisoned and killed how many people around the world? And people are going to take their advice on this is a good thing for you after what we've already witnessed? I don't think so. I'm certainly not taking any advice from Pfizer.
Taking the piss, more like it. My God.
Well, that's pretty much it. So let's just backtrack a little bit on some of this, Dee. One, massive land grab to rot and destroy what's left of any rights that our Indigenous may have once had in this country. This is what this is for. It's not to bring unity. It's quite the opposite. But this is what it's going to do. It's going to do a massive land grab to give the World Economic Forum the power to start introducing their policies as law in this country. It's our first step to removing the Crown and the Commonwealth. We'll be in some backwards, messed up state like America is. All the states will have their own, premiers or presidents or whatever, and they're looking at making us a republic. And there's a lot of people out there going, oh, they never make us a republic. Go and have a look through all the ministers and what the ministers have been sworn in as. We've got a couple of ministers sworn in as assistants and advisors to the republic. We're a commonwealth. We're not a republic. Why are they already swearing in ministers for these positions? What's really going on? And there's too many questions around this voice and simply no answers. There's been some, a lot of people doing the homework and stuff on here, some amazing info about all this. This is the National Indigenous Australians Agency, which is the agency set up to basically do what the voice is meant to do. These guys have, as we said earlier, an enormous budget, 1,300 or more staff. And what are they doing? Bugger all. Are they being listened to? No. So the vision of this mob is the same vision supposedly as the voice. It says it here, and this is on the government website. This is not making this shit up. This is what the government's telling everyone. Their vision is for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people are heard, recognised and empowered. If the government really wanted that, they'd have given the land back a long time ago. The National Australians Indigenous Agency, or National Indigenous Australians Agency, works in genuine partnership to enable the self-determination and aspirations of First Nations communities, like hell they do. It says we lead and influence change across government to ensure Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples have a say in decisions that affect them. That's the biggest crock of shit I've read from any government department in God knows how long. They've done nothing but rot and shaft our Indigenous since they turned up here a couple hundred years ago. They're not helping them with their rights of self-determination, as they're supposed to under the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, or as they shouldn't have interfered with in the first place. It's no secret that the Indigenous have been here for tens of thousands of years before any of us turned up. The Mabo case proved Terra Nullius was an absolute sham and a fraud. So everything based in this country is based on fraud, lies and criminal acts. And here's another one they're trying to get the people to vote for to make it less criminal because people voted for it. It's an absolute rot. They don't lead and influence change across government. What government has ever changed that's been of any benefit to any of our Indigenous? It's a benefit to the very few that'll take the money. What about the rest of them? Why none of the mob's been asked or consulted about this? The only people who have had a say in this voice bullshit are those accepting big paychecks. The elders that I've spoken to, uncles, aunties, any of the mob anywhere around this country, no one's come out to their lands and asked them questions about the voice. Do they want it? Do they need it? Are they interested? People have turned up and said, hey, we'll pay you lots of money if you want to, do a yes campaign with us. A lot of them told them bugger off and go away. The only ones saying yes are the ones that have been bought and paid for. Because everyone else is objecting to this. So this is what they tell us. This is the vision and the purpose. And this is all basically what it says if you keep reading through here, our structure, to meet the government's priorities effectively and deliver on our executive order. Well, can we see this executive order? Who wrote the executive order? What it is the organisation, they have all their different things here that they're trying to do. The idea here of this this National Indigenous Australians Agency was to be able to have a voice to Parliament. Oh, sounds familiar, yeah? So the Indigenous got a seat at the table and could give advice to the government on the needs for the Indigenous community. Now, this has been going on for over 200 years, D. It's not that the Indigenous need a voice. They have one, and it's a bloody strong one. The problem here is the government won't fucking listen. Now, I could have tried that 200 years ago and we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now, would we? This is for me what it comes down to. We don't need to give someone who's already got a voice. And who the hell do we think we are that we can do that to someone else? Oh, D, I'm going to have a vote. I'm going to give you a voice. Do you feel better? How rude, how arrogant from white Australia to think that we can do this for a group or tribes of people that have been here for tens of thousands of years before us, that they have to get their voice from us. Look, are you kidding?
It's an insult, isn't it?
Massive. the height of arrogance, the height of hypocrisy. I mean, how would white Australians like it if we had to have a vote for us to have a say with government as to how we were treated? Let's flip this. There'd be race cards and all sorts of racism arguments being flung left, right, and centre. And that's part of what this shit's going to do. It's going to create this heavy division. So look, while I'm on here with the screen, let's just have a look at some of the other nasty shit that they're saying about all this. This again, guys, you can see, look, from the Parliament of Australia up the top here. Again, what happened to the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia, and who are these charlatans? With the dodgy seal, with the kangaroo and the emu. Where's the lion and the unicorn for the Commonwealth? What's going on? This isn't Parliament. This is some corporate copy. They have no authority here. The Commonwealth doesn't really have any either, but that's another argument. What's going on? Why have we got this here? So we have a look through at how this was done in the readings and passed by both houses. Now, it says that this amendment, this legislative act, which I'll show you in a minute what they're trying to do, this is what it is. It's the voice, the bill to be read a third time. I'll show you the bill in a sec 2D. And it says that it commences on the day it receives royal assent. How's it getting royal assent when we don't have a king or a queen in Australia? There is no king of Australia. That's a fraudulent title that no one in this country has no one here in Australia has the authority to give the king or the queen a new title. That's Royal Styles and Titles Act of 53, that we don't have the land seals or titles to be able to grant royalty a new title. So where the hell did this king of Australia come from who's going to be helping an agent of a fake king giving royal assent is not royal. They can't assent to this. The entire thing's a sham. It doesn't matter what angle we look at this from. It's a rort. And the people who are going to be rorted the most is the Indigenous. And most of them know it. They don't want this. Anyone I've not spoken to any tribal man or woman in the last few months since this bullshit was announced that actually is in favour of this. Again, the only people in favour of it are those who are taking a massive paycheck to say they're in favour of it. So, guys, if you go and have a look on here, this is on our Parliament of Australia. You can have a look up here, aph.gov.au. Go through the websites, guys, like I did, and have a look. Have a look at when this was introduced, when it was debated, second reading, third reading, agreed to, and when it was passed. And then we're going to go looking through some of the other info about here, guys. Follow the paper trail. It's not that hard to do. Now, also we have this, the Uluru, the Heart Statement. Imagine, have you tried looking that up, Dee? Do you get a copy of it?
No, I haven't.
You get one page, 20-something page document.
They don't give you the rest?
Oh, God, no. Do you know where, funnily enough, where I found the entirety of the document?
Where?
And I was quite shocked. Tabloid goddamn mainstream media was the first place that I found an entire copy of this, of all places, on the Herald Sun, one of the worst bits of mainstream media we have in this country. And they actually have the full statement here.
Wow.
Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that the PM doesn't know much about, and this is a great read, guys. There's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of not so good stuff too, but this is the full statement. As you can see, I'm flicking through. I'm not going to pick out any individual part here, but this is a lot more than one page. What the Indigenous want is the truth to be told. That's what it states through all of this, if anyone wants to read it. What a sham. How is it that the government websites do not have a copy of this, yet I can find this on a mainstream media website? It was easier to find here than it was on the government websites.
So what is this statement? So who's the heart?
Well, let's look a little bit further at that one. This is sent from a friend of mine who does a lot of work with the Indige. That 40 men and women gathered to hear from our original elders on the voice to Parliament, and this is what was discovered. First of all, traditional custodians preferred to be known as the originals because the letters ab in Aboriginal negates the truth of their original origin. Now, the referendum will remove the originals' current voice and power to negotiate with the Australian government on behalf of the individual sovereign nations of the country. That currently the government must seek approval from originals for all developments on tribal lands. This will no longer be an obligation. Section 15 in the proposed constitutional alteration says that they would not oblige the Parliament or the executive government to follow representation of the voice. Isn't that the whole purpose for the voice? So that they follow the representations made by that? And yet here, when we've been looked into by the elders, I said, no, it's not going to be the case. We don't want this. Again, guys, I'm not here to speak on behalf of any of the tribes or the elders. I'm just presenting information that was forwarded to me. I'm in no way thinking I have any authority to speak on behalf of anyone, especially our tribal elders or our Indigenous here. It's just wrong. No one can give a voice to someone else. It's ridiculous. The referendum will remove veto powers from the original nations. An official power or right to refuse to accept or allow something, even if most other people or organisations involved approve of it. The right to say no is going to be stripped if this goes ahead. The referendum will remove the acknowledgement of the original birthright and 60,000 plus years of their cultural heritage. Now, the elders who attended Uluru at the time of the Statement of the Heart, said the statement is bad and they should burn it. It's bad for all of us. Now, the original people and the elders who were there at the timing of this signing of the Statement of the Heart from Uluru, that they were banging on and on about to push this voice bullshit, says that the originals were all directed to sign around the edge of a blank sheet of paper at the Uluru meeting in 2017, or they would be removed from the meeting. The actual statement was added later. No one was told what they were putting their names to. An advisory council goes against original law as no one can speak on behalf of another mob. We can't have, coastal tribes speaking for the desert mob or vice versa. It's not going to work. The tribes know this. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of anything. Anyone who wants to correct me on this, guys, my apology. I have the utmost respect for any of our tribal men and women of this country. And as many of you guys who know me, I spent a lot of time out bush with a lot of the mob all around the country. And that's why this bullshit is pissing me off so much. There's no way this should be going up and ahead. It's just nothing more than a roar. And again, it's the height of rudeness and arrogance to think that white Australia are going to decide whether or not Indigenous people get a voice to Parliament or a vote. Has the government tried listening to our Indigenous? Would that not have been the easiest solution instead of dividing the country over referendums, trying to change and alter a constitution? Has no one explored the option of just listening? Would that not be so much simpler? We don't need to change laws for any of this. The government needs to grow a spine and learn how to listen. Problem solved. It's that simple.
So my understanding, Zev, is that the government is asking the people to vote to pretty much give the originals' rights away. That's what this is about.
Under the guise of it's going to do the opposite. It's going to give them more rights. No, all it's going to do when you look up the description, I'll bring it up and I'll share screen a minute and show you. It says in their government websites, and guys, please look, if you think you're full of shit anyone watching, look this stuff up. Research it yourselves. It says it will give the Indigenous a seat at the table to give advice to the Parliament on, isn't that what the National Indigenous Agency thingy does anyway? Without altering the Constitution and dividing the nation and bringing World Economic Forum policies in as law? This is our first step to getting rid of the Crown and the Commonwealth. It's why ministers are already being sworn in with titles involving the Republic, what they've been sworn in to do. This is a done deal unless it gets stopped. And I'm dubious, like anything that we're allowed to vote on, whether the vote will actually have any effect. I mean, if voting really changed anything, do you think they'd really let us do it? It's the illusion of choice. It's the illusion of power and control.
And what's in the way of the government from pretty much selling out the country to the WEF is the originals, because they have they're the custodians of this land, and their sovereignty was never ceded.
Correct.
That's the final step. If people vote yes, they will vote their rights and their freedoms away, pretty much. And
this country will go down the shitter even more so than it already is.
Yeah.
That's the short of it, Dee. The only two countries standing in the way of this global autonomous control over everyone is us and Russia. Now just let that sink in for a minute. The only two countries in the world that are still posing a problem for this New World Order bullshit, for this WEF political global one world, whatever the hell they're trying to do to everybody, is us and Russia. Yeah. Everyone's been told to hate on Russia. and been told to hate anyone here who dares to say, no, you shouldn't vote for the voice, you should be voting a no. Well, for me, I don't think anyone should even be, the whole referendum should have a vote, whether or not we have a referendum. When were the Australian people given that choice? Do we get a vote to say whether we want the referendum or not? Do we even need it, is the other question. And again, we come back to, why have we got idiots who aren't even government? These are the Australian government, not even the government of the Commonwealth of, making these bullshit. Yeah, exactly. And which constitution is being altered? The constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia or the Australian constitution, which is great for toilet paper and nothing else? Unless we're talking the real one from 1900, 1901, Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia. What are we really changing and doing here? And who the hell does White Australia think they are to say that it's their choice whether or not that our Indigenous should be listened to? Can we just listen to them already? They've been here for 60,000 plus years, proven. We know this. Probably a hell of a lot longer too if you look into it. Why don't we just listen? Why don't we just hear them out?
Yeah. Another thing I'm seeing, Zev, and I feel like it's important that we address this, is causing a lot of division, where the people who have migrated here, now they're starting to feel attacked. What their ancestors have done, like they've contributed to this nation, they're also not really understanding what's going on, and they're taking it real personal. Like there was a video of Joel Jamal saying, a few things that was quite divisive. I understand when people get their backs up, because my parents migrated here, and although like no one owns this land, it's the creator's land, the First Nations or Originals were the original custodians, and they know the land better than anyone. And that's where I think that's why we should listen to them. I'm not saying that they are gonna, they should be dictating us or whatever. Like, people are taking things the wrong way. So I just want to talk about that,
Let's break it down to even simpler terms then, D. Man has no authority or dominion over his fellow man. It's that simple. Well, we come back to our basis of law. Depending on your religious or spiritual beliefs, we've got God or nature, which created man, who created government. That which we created cannot have authority over us, just like we don't have authority over God or nature. It works the same. So how is it now we've got a fake corporate government trying to talk white Australia into thinking they have some form of authority over people who have been on this land for tens of thousands of years before the rest of us? Never happened to first in time, first in law. Again, this is not about giving the Indigenous a voice. They have a voice. This is about people needing to learn to friggin' listen. That's it. Simple. This is the actual act, as you can see, guys. This is from the legislation.gov.au. So again, from our Australian government with the wrong seal. But this is what they're working with, so we're going to run with this for tonight to show people what's going on. This is the Constitution Alteration for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice 2023 number. A bill for an act to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Now, just the wording for that on its own should be setting off alarm bells for everybody. The First Peoples of Australia. No, they're the First Peoples of this land. This is our corporation. We don't want anything to do with this. By establishing a voice. What about the voice that our Indigenous have already established over the past tens of thousands of years that no one in government seems to be able to or want to listen to? And what about the rest of the population who are thinking they can vote for this and they get a say in how our Indigenous are going to be treated? Again, I come back to just listen to our Indigenous. They've been here they know, as you said, Dee, they know this land way better than any of us will. And we don't have the blood ties connection to it like they do. How many people watching this have spent time out bush with them or sat around the fire with the old people? You need to listen. If people learnt to listen, we wouldn't be having to have these crazy debates and this divisive shit like this voice, which is just going to completely ruin this country even further because people never learned how to listen to those who know the land better than we do.
I must interject there and say I think the biggest problem is in schooling. Well, for me, Sev, we were always taught that the originals were quite barbaric. So I can see why people don't want to listen to them, because they're being portrayed as these barbaric people. You know what I mean? So I think
the people who are portraying that are the same people who have never spent a day in their lives with any of the tribes. They've never gone out bush with them. They've never sat by the fire. They've been out hunting or fishing with them. Got no idea. The real barbarians were the English when they came here. Let's get that straight. So 100 times more savage and barbaric than any of the tribal people I've met traveling all around this country for many, many years. The English are the barbarians, not our Indigenous. So look, this is a really, really short little thing that they've done here. It's bugger all. Now, again, short title, this is what it's called. Now, again, I was talking about this before. We see this here. This act commences on the day the act receives the royal assent. Where the hell is it getting royal assent from? It can't commence. There's nobody in Australia that has the authority to actually grant royal assent, because there's nobody in this country who holds the land, seals and titles in accordance with the Royal Styles and Titles Act to actually do so. So legally speaking, it can never commence. Right, now the table of contents, 8, alteration of, they're going to insert a whole new chapter. And this is it here. This is one bit. That's it. This here. 129, Chapter 9, recognition of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples. Recognition of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia. How about the first peoples of this land? There shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice, which is our National Indigenous Australians Agency. It does the same thing. We already have this. Yeah. Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander Voice may make representations to the Parliament and the executive government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. How? So they may make. Again, how conceited and arrogant is our fake corporate government being here, where the Australian government is saying that they may make representations to the executive government of the Commonwealth? Then why isn't this coming from the government of the Commonwealth of Australia? Why is it coming from the Australian government to do this for the Commonwealth? And it allows them, where it says they may make, well, they've got permission to make a representation to the Commonwealth government, which of course, like everything else is represented to them, will be ignored and shuffled off. But they want us all to vote on this bullshit under the fraudulent claim that our tribal people are actually going to be listened to by government. And they get a seat at the table where they can be ignored. They may make representations. They don't get a say in legislation. They don't get a say to be able to create or make laws or abolish bad ones. They're allowed to make representations. This is what this shit fight is over. You've got to be kidding me. And the Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, it doesn't say which one either, does it, have power to make laws with respect to matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, including its composition, function, powers and procedures. Now, I encourage anyone watching this to look up the composition, function, powers and procedures and who's behind this. Who was on that list? There was bugger all Indigenous people listed in there for the people behind this. So it's meant to be for the Indigenous to give them a voice to Parliament. Yet we've got a whole heap of whiteys running the show instead, under the guise of the voice. And again, the only people involved in this are those happy to take a massive paycheck. The Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, with no reference to which Constitution, have the power to make laws with respect to matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Not to the people, but to that voice, to that corporate entity they're going to create. Yeah, to make laws. They can't make laws regarding those that were here tens of thousands of years prior. First in time, first in law. Sovereignty was never ceded. So how the hell are they going to make laws for the tribes? Are the tribes going to go along with it? A lot of them I've spoken to are not. I hope this is a bit of info for anyone watching and looking at, look at the websites where we are, guys. This is all the so-called government websites I'm getting this info from. It's not shit I'm making up. This is the propaganda that we're being sold, but no one's having a proper look at it. And it's disturbing. Massive scam, D. Massive rort. Once again, everything we're being told is the opposite. as it often is with the government and the media. So let's have a look at who's promoting this. How much are they being paid? And when did we have all these younger generation? We've got, again, I'm not purporting to speak on behalf of any of the tribes. This is more just a question and observation that I've made that, well, none of this is seeming right. How is it I have the right to determine whether or not someone else has a voice? What sort of deception is this? How would you feel, Dee, if you had to wait for a vote from someone else to see if you had a voice? You'd be going, hang on, I've got a voice. I don't need to vote to have it recognised. You idiots just need to listen.
It's just insulting. And for those who just can't see it, I don't know. I hope they can, eventually see through the bullshit and the lies.
By then it might be too late. And this is what happens with how these tyrannical regimes take power. They slowly erode our rights one by one. They pass these little stupid laws and no one really notices what's going on until it's too late. And we all go, hey, hang on, what happened to our rights and our freedoms and our liberties? Oh, we've been legislating them away from you for the last 30 years. You guys didn't notice. Well, hang on, people like myself have noticed. And there's a lot of us out there that have noticed. Will there be enough of us, Dee, is the question.
And it feels like a repeat what we saw in the last 3 years, where all these prominent individuals were promoting something and in the end turned out to be harmful to people. And they're just doing it again.
All my time I've spent with any of the mobs, Outbush, or whatever, any of the activism campaigning I've been involved in, it's come from the elders as to what occurs. But we've got generations now, frontline in the media, supposedly Indigenous people, who aren't elders, who are promoting the voice, who are speaking on behalf of their mobs, on behalf of their land. They've been paid a fortune. Again, I'm not dispersing anything. I'm not claiming to be able to speak on tribal matters or affairs, but for the amount of time that I've spent with the mob out bush and travelling around the country, that struck me as very, very odd. I don't know, for that particular mob, that may be. Again, I'm not here casting aspersions or believing that I can speak on behalf of anyone either. This is just my observation, and that doesn't seem right.
If people wanted to learn more for themselves, could they go to these, tribes and mobs and...
As a general rule, any of the mob that I've spent time out bush with have been some of the most generous, big-hearted, welcoming people that I've come across anywhere. They look after everyone like your family.
See, I've always heard it's dangerous and you should never go out that way.
Yeah, because this is the division. They don't want people knowing or learning the amazing knowledge and wisdom that our tribal people on these lands have. Because if everybody was that connected to the earth and knew what they knew, our government would be toast in a heartbeat. So what's the best way to prevent people learning that? Divide and conquer. The oldest play in the book. No, don't go and talk to them. They're bad people. They're dangerous. No, they're not. It's insane. Any race, tribe, culture, or group or class of people is going to have bad eggs in it. I don't care where you go. It's not about race, colour, creed, religion, or any of that shit. There's dickheads and there's good people. The colour of your skin or where you come from doesn't change the fact whether or not you're a dickhead or a good person. We get them everywhere. It's not about that. And, I've got to say, guys, go and connect with the earth. Even if you're doing it without the Indigenous people, go and sit outside, get bare feet and bury your feet in the ground. Go and connect, get grounded, sit around by the fire, get off your screens. Do something in nature. Start to learn to appreciate that. Because when we connect to that and not this fake, fake BS, that's when the government loses its power over us, because we get to learn who and what we are. No, we're not slaves to a system. We're natural beings. We belong in nature. Another one for you here, Dave. Anyone wants to look this up? Cruden versus Neal, 1796. Very famous case from North Carolina in 1796. And the famous quote from that case was that the judge said this toward the end of it, that man is not bound to any laws except for those of the laws of nature. And he cannot be bound to any institution formed by his fellow man without his consent. There's only really the laws of nature or the laws of God, depending on your spiritual or religious persuasions, that govern us. They're the only laws we don't get a say in. If I were to go outside and start yelling at God that you've got to do it my way, he's going to laugh his ass off at me. it's raining and I went outside and yelled at no, said, no, that's illegal. You can't rain today. Nature's going to laugh at me. We don't have any authority over that because that's where we're created from. People would spend the time to get to speak and listen to our Indigenous. Don't even speak to them, just listen. You'd learn a lot more about nature. You'd learn about the connection to it and our connection to it. We all come from there. We've just been disconnected to it. And it's through that disconnection that we fall for this trickery and deceit, that we fall for the lies because we don't know any better, because we're not grounded. We're not part of nature anymore. We've been disconnected in some ways or on some levels. What they're trying to do to us, they're trying to disconnect us all, divide us so that we can be conquered. A united front's very hard to deal with.
My concern is because, you know, with the councils being erected and stuff like that, the referendums that they had, the people voted no, but they still went ahead with it. What if they did that with this? You know, the majority of people say no, but they still go ahead with it anyway, because it seems like they just do what they want to do.
Well, this is like I was saying before, Dee, if voting actually changed anything, do you really think that let we the people do it? Oh, well, you know, but we voted. Well, let's look at Victoria. 3/4 of the state hates Dan Andrews with a passion. Somehow he got back in. Mystery. Voting doesn't change shit. That's why I don't do it. I won't participate in the fraud. It's the illusion of choice. It's the illusion of control, the illusion of power. We don't have that. And the government's not about to relinquish that to we the people. It's never going to happen. We undo everything they're about. All about the lies and the trickery and the deception. There's too many fingers in the pie with his voice for any of it to make any sense. There's too much money being thrown at this. Where's all the money coming from that's been thrown at the propaganda for this? And in accordance with our actual constitution, being that of the Commonwealth of Australia, they're not supposed to be biasing the vote. Any propaganda is meant to be equal on both sides, for a yes and a no vote. And yet they've got this disinformation bill they're trying to get in before we get to the voice. What a coincidence on the timing of that. So anyone who dares speak about no to the voice can be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars under their new disinformation bill. Oh, what a coincidence. Wow. The timing of this is all lining up nicely for them.
Wow.
more baffling mysteries that are just a coincidence to everybody. No one's putting the pieces together.
They've been planning this for a long time, haven't they?
This is under World Economic Forum agreements from the 1990s that this has been pushed through. And they can't do it until they make themselves able to make laws for and over the Indigenous. So this isn't about giving anyone a voice to Parliament that they're going to ignore and not act on, as they've done for the past 200 and whatever years here. This is about being able to sneakily remove the need for them to cede their sovereignty, to have people agree that they can now be governed by a government that has nothing to do with them. And again, who the fuck do we think we are, the Australian people, that we have the right to say that to the Indigenous? Or that it's our choice? It's their choice, not ours. It's every individual's choice. They want to push this through. The government should be going out to every single different little pocket, all the different tribes and the mobs living everywhere, and asking them individually, what do they want? What do they need? No one's bothered to go and do that with any of the elders. Any of the mob I've spoken to have gone, wait, we haven't been consulted. No one's spoken to us. No one's even come out and talked to any of the family or the mob or the elders. We're kept in the dark. All we've been told is, yes, sign it, yes. And if you want to do a yes thing, we'll pay you lots of money. But no one knows what's actually involved, what it's actually going to do. There's so much fraud and trickery and deception surrounding this. And if the last 3 or 4 years haven't taught everyone what you need to know about, does our government have our best interest at heart? I've seen that firsthand. How is this going to help anyone? Quite simply, it's not. If the government says we're here to help you, you know they're not. If they say we're not here to help, I'm like, oh, maybe they want to help. It's the opposite. This is how you've got to look at it. If the government says it's black, I guarantee it's white. Let's work backwards from there. And this is sadly what it's become to. COVID was great. It woke everyone up to the fact that, yeah, they're lying shills. They don't have our best interest at heart. And it's quite alarming when you consider the job description of a politician. One sentence: to represent the will of we the people.
One thing they can't do, or they haven't done.
It's the only job you can have, get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars with crazy benefits and no taxes and all the other stuff, and not do your job at all and still get paid and keep your job. And to rot the people, largely our Indigenous, they're the ones who are going to cop it the worst. It's going to be the tribes. And through that, we all lose out then too, because that means we're not protected by that tribal law anymore on the tribal lands either. The government can try and usurp that and get around it. And that is a very dangerous and slippery slope. A lot of the tribes, of course, aren't going to care what the government does because they never ceded their sovereignty. They don't care if you pass legislation around that. We were here first. First in time, first in law. It's that simple. It's what it comes back to.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, Zev. So I know there'll be a lot of people who will relate to this. I don't vote because, well, first thing is because I don't think it's the true constitution. It's been corporatized. Secondly, I feel like I'm giving away my consent if I vote. Thirdly, I feel that regardless of, voting, they're always going to do and put whoever they wanted to, right? So it's an illusion that we have some sort of a say, some sort of a voice. In this situation with such a, something that's so big right now, should people vote? Should they just ignore it? Should we be demanding that you need to ask the people if you want to vote for this?
Each to their own. Look, if people feel compelled enough, they want to participate in the fraud and vote, go for it. Again, I'm not here to tell anyone. I have no authority to tell others what to do. I only speak on my own advice and observations here. I'm not purporting to be able to speak on behalf of anyone or for anyone or over anyone. I can only do that for me, as each of us can only do. And this is the problem with the voice. We're being asked to do the opposite. We're being asked to speak for others, to impose our views, our values over others who we've never met or spoken to. Whose needs and wants we don't know because no one's bothered to bloody ask. Again, we come back to this is just the height of arrogance. This is just the ultimate slap in the face for any of our tribal people after any of the headway or leeway they may have made in the last couple of 100 years with the government to try and coexist in this land in some form of peaceful manner. This is going to destroy that in a heartbeat. Who the hell do we all think we are that it's our right or choice to decide what happens with another being or another individual, with another man or woman? I wouldn't do that to you, Dean. I'm not about to think that I have the power to do that over the tribes and Indigenous of the whole country. I wouldn't do that to someone sitting next to me, let alone to a group of people that have been here for tens of thousands of years and think that it was all right for me to do so because the government said so. How does that even work? None of it makes any sense. And anything too. Why do we have propaganda? Why do they advertise stuff? If we didn't advertise it, everyone would vote no. We didn't know what it was about. The most heavily advertised things are usually the worst things for you. The two most heavily advertised products on the planet are Coca-Cola and McDonald's, and probably Pfizer as well nowadays. But I rest my case on that one here. The reason they have to advertise the crap out of that is because it's terrible for you. We all know this. We know we shouldn't be putting that crap in our bodies. But we have to really spam the propaganda, advertising to trick people into doing it. You don't see ads for oranges and apples and fresh fruit, do you?
No.
Because we're supposed to eat that. They don't have to advertise it. This is what advertising is for, is to change your mind, to avert your attention from where it would usually be.
Yeah. I really, really hope people are smarter than that by now after what's happened to question things at least.
Well, look, again, none of the politicians are answering questions. Albo doesn't know. He goes, it's all about the statement of the heart of Uluru, and he's only read the first page. He's got no idea what's contained in the rest of that. He's got no idea how it came about. He can't answer any questions about what's going on and where's all the... No one has any information on this. We're being asked to vote on something we haven't been given full disclosure and discovery on. And on the surface, it appears to be as dodgy as hell. Appears to be doing the complete opposite of everything the media and the politicians are telling us it's there for. Who would have thought the media and politicians would lie to we the people? What a surprise that is. It's just wrong on every level, D. And there is so much, guys, I encourage anyone watching this, look into this, do your homework, do your research, question this shit yourselves. Look it up on the government websites and see what they're proposing and planning to do and who's behind this. And look at the budget that they have for this and how many millions they've spent on propaganda and advertising and TV. Like John Farnham has come forward and said, you can use my famous Aussie icon song, The Voice, to push for this. The same guy who through COVID wouldn't allow his song to be used for anything. Wonder how much they offered Johnny for that little deal. You know, we've got all the celebrities that pushed and promoted the jab are the same ones pushing and promoting this. We've all seen how the jab worked out for everyone. None of us regret not taking it. Bear that in mind as well. The one that really got me, Dee, was Pfizer coming out supporting the voice, saying it's a good thing. That for me was like, if you people need any more proof of how bad and insidious and evil and fucked up this was, Pfizer are supporting it. That in itself should just tell everyone what you need to know then and there.
Dead giveaway.
So I'm not sure what sort of questions you were getting around any of this, Dee, but I'm hoping some of the info being over tonight sort of helps. And again, we're not getting the right answers because we're not asking the right questions about this shit. But which government's doing it? Which parliament? Which constitution is being amended?
They're very smart with their words. They don't reveal. It's very deceptive, you know. Which Australia, you know, like we may give them a voice. Like may.
No, they may. What it says in there is that they may make representations to the government. But they get a say in how it's legislated and will be executed, or how it will actually work. They're not involved in the operation of. You get a seat at the table where you're allowed to submit a document which we're going to ignore. You may make representations. We're not told that, oh, yeah, vote for the voice and a few hand-selected Indigenous people that are happy to sell their soul for a shit ton of cash are going to get a seat at the table where they can make representations on behalf of people they know nothing about. And they can make every representation that they want. Guarantee none of them are going to get honoured or listened to or acted upon. No, we're going to vote for them to have a seat at the table so they're now allowed to submit a paperwork, to make representations. Why can't we just listen? It's a simpler answer here. It doesn't divide anyone. You send our politicians out in the desert, sit them down with the old people. Bastards will sit there for a month. Fuck, you only sit in Parliament a few weeks of the year, while they're all getting paid up to $500,000 or more a year. You've got some time. Go and spend a month out in the bush or in the desert with the old people and learn. Listen. Then you might have an idea as to what's actually required, what our Indigenous want, because you haven't bothered to bloody ask them.
And the funny thing is, the way the Indigenous function and the way, you know, their tribal law is that it's very fair. And no one can just come along and usurp and take over like our government is.
Hey, but it's different in every area. Each tribe and each part of the country has its own things. Its own way of doing things. Its own tribal law for that tribe.
Yeah.
We have no right to interfere with that, nor does any other tribe for that matter. It'd be like me coming to your house and going, no, but this is what I do in my home, so I'm going to do it in yours.
Well, hopefully this is enough information for people to make an informed decision and really understand what's going on. You've provided a lot of really useful resources and links there.
On that note, Dee, those resources and links I provided took me like less than a half an hour to look up, like 20 minutes-ish. Just doing better searches online, finding the government departments, the websites with the information. Again, I was horrified to find the entire statement for the Uluru was easier to find on Herald Sun. Christ's sake, of all different bloody horrible tabloid, media, the Herald Sun of all places was the first place that I could find a full copy of the actual statement.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
And does that statement also take away the rights? I haven't actually read it, so I'm not sure.
It does, but it doesn't. But look, the other thing that I showed you from the gathering of some of the old people, the elders and 40 men and women that joined them to hear this sort of stuff. I said the entire statement's bad. It wasn't written by the looks of it by any of the elders as to why the ones who put their name to it didn't know what they were signing, because they're all asked to sign a blank page. The text was added later. Endorsement, that's trickery. Deception, it's fraud, and all the shit we're opposed to. And here it is happening under our noses, under the guise of something good, when it's completely the bloody opposite, as it always is with the government.
Yeah.
We've seen this through COVID. Oh, yeah, it's safe and effective. This is going to be good for the people. I'm going to have the same laugh at that. The jab with the mask, nothing through COVID was safe or bloody effective. None of this is going to be good either. If the government had to come out and said, yeah, this voice thing's a shocker of an idea and it's not going to help and it's not going to be beneficial, hell, I'd be voting for it. They've come out telling us what a good thing it is, which immediately had most of us going, well, it can't be good because they said it's good. Can't work. It's the same.
Do you know if there are original tribes who are actively or publicly speaking out about this?
Oh, and saying no against it, heaps.
Okay.
Cindy Roberts up in Northern Rivers has been bagging the crap out of this for ages, quite public. She's done some great videos and talks about this and explain the history of why this is so wrong, why her mob doesn't want this.
Mm.
You know, and that's her mob. She can speak for her mob. It's part of her thing. And the different mobs around the country, they can speak for their mobs, but we can't be speaking for others. I can't go speaking for your family, do you? No more than you can't go speaking for mine. So why does Australia think we can speak on behalf of the tribes? You wouldn't speak on behalf of your neighbours or your family or your friends, but you're thinking you somehow have the rights and authority now to speak on behalf of however many tens or hundreds of thousands of Indigenous that we have, or millions of them here in Australia. Are you kidding? We don't have any such rights or authority to do that. It is just absolute. Look, I say the word, it's racist, it's rude, it's arrogant, and it's a very racist approach to think that we can do that. We have no right to do that. And that's what the bulk of this is. Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not what we're told it is. Okay, I'll go over all our key points here, Dee. One, it's crap. The whole thing's a fraud and a sham and a massive land grab. And any of the mob that I've spoken to are calling it out for what it is. It's a land grab.
Yeah.
Part of that land grab is a step toward removing Crown and Commonwealth to make us a republic. And the people who think that's bullshit, why a minister's already been sworn in with assistants and advisors to the Republic in their title. Because according to our so-called government, it's a done deal. This is going to bring in the implementation of World Economic Forum policies as law.
It's very concerning.
We're going to end up worse than America. And we know how far gone America is. We're going to end up going down the same route. States will have their own autonomous powers. They won't be beholden to a constitution or crown or commonwealth. Be a republic, and all the states will be able to do as they please.
Well, we already saw that through, the scandemic, where each premier was calling the shots for the state. It was a republic type scenario.
Or a trial run, practice run, if you like to.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's call it what it was. It was a practice run. It was a trial. It was an IQ test that most of the population failed miserably. There's just so much wrong with this voice thing, so much information that is not available, that we're not being told, that we're not being given. How are we supposed to vote on something that we don't have the information for?
Exactly. And now anyone that speaks out, they're going to be fined.
Now, well, under the misinformation, disinformation thing, if that gets up, what a coincidence on the timing of that. That anyone that dares to speak out against this can be fined. The social media companies are getting fined like I think $500,000 to $5 million for allowing the post to be on their thing. Wow. They silence it everywhere they bloody well can. That's why they're pushing to get this through now, so that closer to the actual so-called vote on this referendum, you won't see anything about no online. It'll be squashed. It'll be removed.
It's concerning.
And Albo's already said that if this voice thing doesn't get up, he's going to legislate it anyway.
Oh, really? Well,
how he's planning on doing that is a mystery to many of us, and the amount of opposition against the voice, let's see what the tally is for the count of the votes. And how are they counting that many millions of votes in a day? We're not going to get the result the same day. And if we do, that result's going to be an absolute sham. I don't care how many, they don't have enough staff on the Electoral Commission thing to do that in one day to count all the votes. They'll go, the yes have got enough now. We're not going to worry about the rest of them. We won. How Dan got back in, isn't it? We're not going to bother with the rest of the votes because Dan's far enough in front now because we rigged it anyway. So it's a win.
If there was some way we could shut down the whole voting situation.
Shut down the whole referendum would be the best case scenario. And for the government to start to listen to our tribal people.
Yeah.
Again, we don't need legislation or alterations to the Constitution. Government needs to learn to listen. That's it. So as the rest of the country, for that matter, is my 2 cents worth on that too, Dee. We have no right to, we should be listening to them, not trying to force our bullshit onto the tribes. We're missing out on such ancient knowledge and wisdom from not listening to these people. It's ridiculous. I'm very fortunate. I've got to spend some time out bush for a lot of the mob, different parts of the country, and learn a lot of this. Why I have such respect for it. You know, for the rest of us thinking that we have any right or authority to be able to tell them what they can and can't do, whether we get to choose whether they get a voice to Parliament or not. They already have one. It's not our right to choose that or our authority to, we can't impose that over other living beings, whether they're Indigenous or not. We don't have that right.
The nerve to say that we can choose to give them a say. What?
It's wrong on so many levels, D. And I could go on about this for hours, but I won't. We'll try and keep this one a bit shorter for everyone. But it's fucked. There's no other word for it. It's lies, treachery, deceit, deception, divide and conquer, every negative aspect that you could think of to do with anything like this is at play here. It's not a vote that I'm telling people to do. What I'm really pushing for is the referendum itself to be scrapped.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
There should be a yes or no vote. Should the referendum even go ahead? Let's have that vote first and then talk about whether or not there should be a vote in the referendum. And then if we are going to have a referendum, again, which government, the Australian or the government of the Commonwealth of Australia? Which parliament, the Australian Parliament or the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia? Which constitution? None of this information is being put to the people. The entire thing's a sham, and regardless of how everyone votes and how much opposition there is, somehow it's going to miraculously get in. Yeah. Just like Dictator Dan got voted in, like fucking Joe Biden got voted in, for Christ's sake. Look at all this is going on in all parts of the world. The people all said and voted no. What do? Maui with the fires in Hawaii. Yeah, they wouldn't sell the land. Miraculously, wildfires came through and destroyed the very land thereafter. What a coincidence. Look at the fires we had here in Australia a couple of years ago, D. Hello, high-speed train line. What a coincidence. It was, all conspiracy theories. That was a land grab, the fires that we had. The floods that we had up in northern rivers. They're already trying to kick people out of their homes, tell them it's not safe to be here, you have to move. They've been offered pittance for their homes. Where are they trying to move them to? To a nice, safe little smart 15-minute city up on the hill where it won't flood. Oh, geez, none of us saw that coming. This is the same shit being played out over and over and over. And until the people wake up and get savvy to this crap, they're going to keep doing it to the rest of us, or at least trying. It needs to stop. The corruption needs to end. The tyranny needs to end. The lies need to end. All we, the people, really want is the truth. And it's the one thing the government will never give us.
Thank you, Zab. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
That pretty much covers it. And look, just to reiterate, guys, this is going out to whoever. I'm not tribal or Indigenous man. I do not claim or purport to have any authority to speak on behalf of any of the tribes. And if anything I've said on this video has offended anyone, look, personally, I really don't give a shit. If you're offended, fucking grow a pair. It doesn't kill you. It's not fatal. But to offend any of our Indigenous or any of the tribal people watching this, that I did not intend to do. The rest of you, I don't care. Yeah. Our Indigenous people of this land know this place better than we ever will. They are more deeply connected to it than most of us whiteys will ever know or understand or comprehend. And it's not until you spend time with any of the mob out bush that you're going to get to learn or appreciate this. And I highly recommend that's something everyone goes and does at some point in their life. Do it more than once, of course, but it's something everyone should go and do to learn from. Again, we do not have the right, and I'm not claiming I'm able to speak on behalf of the tribes or anyone else for that matter. So my statements tonight are purely my observations, what I've observed, and stuff that I've learned over the years that I've expressed and discussed here. So, look, guys, we need to stand with the tribes and behind them, not think that we can put this over them. It's not how it works. And for anyone who thinks that, we should be doing this because this is what the Indigenous want, have you spoken to any of the tribal people or Indigenous or the elders? Have you actually asked them personally if they're for this voice bullshit? Do they even want it? Do they even want a referendum? Has anyone gone to the elders and asked them what they want or need? Until that happens, there's no point in having a voice. Our Indigenous have a very strong voice and a very ancient one. It just needs to be listened to, not legislated for.
Thanks, Ab. Well said. And I think a lot of people are going to appreciate this because I think they're quite confused and they don't want to be labelled or seem like a racist. But I think everything that you've presented will really help people make an informed decision.
It's very hard to make an informed decision without the information. Yeah. And the government's not exactly forthcoming with information about what this is actually going to do.